Hello, this is Roger Brogan, and today we're going to learn how to add Swagger support to the ASP.NET Web API project in Visual Studio using the Swashbuckle API. So let's first just start off with a new FSharp web project. So you select other languages here, go down to FSharp, select web. We'll start with an ASP.NET Core web application. I'll call this Swagger demo. We'll click OK. And we'll just choose the regular old API with .NET Core 2.1. We'll leave the HTTPS support on. We won't enable Docker or authentication at this point. Now, while this project is being created, the first thing that we're going to need to do is add support for the Swashbuckle application. And I'm going to do that by going over to the right here in Solution Explorer, going to the dependencies, and we're going to manage NuGet package. And we're going to browse over for the Swashbuckle ASP.NET Core. And we'll go ahead and select the swashbuckle.asp.NET Core package here. Latest current version here is 3. We'll also see that that's actually going to pull in here Swagger UI and Swagger Gen as well. And this works with at least .NET Standard 1.6. So we'll go ahead and click Install. And while that's installing, we can take a look at what we've got here. We've got our ASP.NET Core 2.1 package, Core app right there. And we should see Swashbuckle pop up right there. That's successfully installed. Now what we need to change here is a few lines in startup. So let's go over there. The first thing that we need to do is to create an info object because we're going to add the Swagger generation to the configure services method here. So I'm just going to jump in right here and I'm going to say let info equal an info object here. And you'll see that it's complaining about not having the package open, so we can use our quick fix there, and that's going to go ahead and put that line up there to open the Swashbuckle ASP.NET Core Swagger. And then we also need to set a couple of properties on this, so we need to set the title here to something interesting. We'll just call it my API v1. And also let's go ahead and set the actual version here. And we don't actually use the equals here, right? This is FSharp, so we have our little reverse arrow, if you will. And we'll set that to v1. And then we can use that object when we add the services here. So I add the Swagger Gen here. And this takes a function. So this function is passed in a config object. And that config object is where we set up our Swagger doc configuration here. So, and that needs a version. We'll go with v1 here. And it also needs our info object that we created. And if we look at the squiggly line here, we'll see that it's complaining about not ignoring our result. So let's just go ahead and pipe that to ignore. And that finishes configuration of the service. And now we need to configure the app. So let's drop down here. And I'm just going to do this inside of the development environment. And what we want to do here is we want to tell the app here that it needs to just use Swagger. And we'll just start off with just using Swagger. And we'll pipe that. If I could type today. Ignore. And then we'll use the Swagger UI, which also takes a function and takes a config argument. And it's the config argument that we need to use to set up our Swagger endpoint, which takes a couple of arguments here. It takes path swagger slash v1 slash swagger .json. And then it also takes a description here. Call this my API v1. And the result of that also needs to get piped over to ignore. And let's run it and give it a shot here. I like to run it in the command line instead of in the IS host. Just like to see the output. We'll pull that over here so you guys can also see. And we'll see the result here, right? So this is just our standard Git call. So to see our new Swagger page, we'll just type /swagger. And here's our Swagger API. So if we want to execute, we can select this one, select try it out, and we'll see it make the call. And there's the values back, right? And that's setting up Swagger. Thanks a lot.